Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. We're here live on December 26, 2025, and we are doing live readings on the channel. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and make sure you guys hit that bell button below so you can see more of the videos as they come out. I'm here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Just saying hi to everybody and happy holidays. I know that this is the very last live that we're doing in 2025 before we head into the new year. So if this is your first time getting a reading, welcome. To get a reading, you just scan the QR code right up here. It'll take you to my PayPal. We're doing 1-card questions for $20 donation or a 3-card spread for $40. Put your question and your information in the memo box, please, so I can answer it. And also, this is the last live that we're doing this month. So if you are a level 4 member and you are obviously a part of my membership, so you guys can cash in on getting your reading for the month ahead, just pop in and let me know if you guys want me to do your reading. Otherwise, we will continue on with the queue. And you guys are going to hear me kind of ramble off names. That's just me letting you know who got in and made their donation, and we'll be doing the readings in the order that we receive them in. So we've got a anonymous person asking a question. We've also got Gemma, and we've got Amanda and Fioriella. I think I'm saying that right. But that's who we have who's waiting. And we'll let you guys know how long we're going to keep the queue open. Usually we'll call last call before we shut it down. And if you guys are watching this on Saturday or Sunday, I missed you. I'm sorry. Please don't send any donations. We will refund you if you do. But I will be back next Friday. We'll be doing live astrology readings right around the time of that full moon in Cancer. So we're going to get started with the anonymous person who has a question. I'm not sure if their name was supposed to be anonymous or their question. So I'm going to kind of keep it a little ambiguous. But I had somebody who sent in a payment for a 3-card reading that's got some questions in regards to kind of what's happening in their life with the energies revolving around a person that they kind of connected with. They can't really understand what the connection is other than it's really intense, and that they have a partnership that they are in and they're kind of feeling a little distant. They kind of feel like they're roommates. So let's see if I can give you some insight on your particular question with a 3-card reading. I was kind of chuckling a little bit because you put the aspects in your chart, and I would say just look at what's happening to your 7th house Lord. Look at the transit that's happening over your natal Mars and how there's a little bit of back and forth that's going to be happening over the next 6 months there. And as you know, because your Mars is in the 9th house, you can meet people through 9th house things. So teaching, training, traveling. And there's a kind of a method to the madness with the Saturn-Neptune transit coming in, where it does kind of represent kind of questioning the boundaries that you have with other people. And the 7th house could also be services. So it can mean this interaction and whether or not you create a boundary, if there was like a dissolving of boundaries, and also how you're perceiving potential partners, both relationships that you're in and people who you might meet. So it kind of makes perfect sense. But let's ask the tarot what we need to know about the situation with this new person that's come in. That's rather intense. And the cards that I got for you are the 3 of Pentacles, then you have the 9 of Pentacles, and then you have the 5 of Wands. I mean, I'll give you credit. I do think that you're trying to keep it kind of like professional, or you're trying to kind of be like, okay, we're interacting with each other because we are working on something. Okay, so whether it's a professional connection, if it's a financial connection, certainly it could be that with Pentacles, some kind of an exchange or something that you guys are working on. I don't think you intentionally went into meeting this person like seeking a relationship. I think that the 3 of Pentacles really talks a lot about this kind of unity that you have and feeling like there is like a team, or that there is some sense of like a missing part or piece that comes into your life and it just fits. In a professional sense, it's like obviously collaborating with other people and getting the job done, but I feel like you weren't looking for it. It kind of found you. The 3 of Pentacles can also be like a timing situation where it talks about that this is going to be something you're going to be working through for the better part of like the next 3 months. So 3 whole lunar cycles. So you're going to want to see what's kind of transpiring or kind of happening as you're getting into March, going into April of next year. And just knowing the transits of what's going to be happening around that time, I would say that's pretty bang on. Now, the right now card you get are the Nine of Pentacles. So this is saying, in a way, maybe it makes you feel good knowing that there is like a connection with somebody that has an interest in you and you're kind of being fawned after. But the Nine of Pentacles is usually somebody who is not obtainable, right? This is like a free woman or like a free spirit. She's capable, takes care of herself, is independent, doesn't rely on anybody, kind of makes her own way. And so this can mean to some extent that that's how you're coming across to this other person. But it can also mean that this is like a moment in time where you're supposed to be realizing that if you're not totally satisfied, in the relationship that you're in, or if you're not feeling like you're getting all of your needs met, it's okay to go your own way. Even though you may not really feel like that's physically or financially like possible, I feel like this is saying that the experience that you're having with the new person that came in makes you realize, wow, I might be settling in this relationship. Would it be easier if I was kind of on my own? Also, it really allows you to feel wanted and to feel needed, but there is like a little bit of like a chase aspect to this because that Nine of Pentacles can't really easily be obtained or kind of wrangled. So it can be highlighting some of the more kind of Saturn Neptune things that are going on where other people are idealizing you or kind of perceiving you in a certain way. Remember, it is making oppositions to your ascendant. And it can also represent that it's okay to kind of keep the status quo where it's like you're kind of maintaining your distance and you're holding your own. And that if you were to make a decision about making a change in your relationship, it would be on your own accord, not because you were kind of involved or coerced or tempted by another person. It would be because you're actually choosing something that's best for you, but not totally willing to kind of give up your freedom in the process. So it might mean that the interaction you're having is making you really rethink, do I want to be in a relationship? Like I said, am I settling in this relationship? And is there a need for me to maybe go my own way for a little bit? And certainly it'll make you feel good. It's a bit of an ego boost. That's for sure. The final card you get is the Five of Wands, which I kind of look at in two different ways. On one hand, I feel like this is almost suggesting it's really difficult to fight some of the feelings or some of the attraction or some of the physical kind of connection that you have with this person, that it can almost be like electric, and then it can bring up a lot of like chaos and it can kind of create like a storm in your life. So it is a warning that if you are to decide to go in the direction of seeing what's up with this other person or pursuing this other person, it can definitely create a bit of upheaval. It can also mean that it's going to really push you to your limits when it comes to what you're willing to do, to potentially like get out of this relationship and change your life. And there could be a lot of challenges along the way. I think the Five of Wands is an interesting card because it also kind of talks about playing things out and seeing what would happen and what would potentially, kind of like transpire if you were to go down one path of considering this other person versus staying in the relationship that you're in. And it's saying now that this person's kind of come into your life, like you almost feel as if you really, really, really want to feel this connection out, even though you know that the current circumstances doing so might kind of like end in disaster. So I'm not going to candy coat it. I do think that you would have to really think about this. And it's not necessarily like you're choosing one person or the other. But sometimes when the Five of Wands comes up, it talks about there being some kind of conflict or something that happens. And it's kind of like the catalyst for change. When we think about the next card that comes up, the Six of Wands, this is a card of victory, moving forward, being well received. So I don't think it's a matter of whether or not that person's interested, like that they are. It's more a matter of, I think feeling conflicted. I also feel like this is about you realizing that if you do pursue this relationship, it's definitely creating a lot of inner conflict. And there's a side of you that's kind of like, wait, hold on, I need to kind of stay where I'm at and I need to kind of be smart or sensible and really be thinking about the physical or financial implications of leaving your current relationship. But it can also mean that there is a side of you that's like, you know what, if I have to upend things, I'll just upend things because it's going to be inevitable. And like I said, this person becomes like this catalyst for change. Notice there's no cards that are coming up that are major arcana cards. There's no cards that are coming up that are connected to cups or relationships. So there's no guarantee with this person. The card on the bottom of the deck will be your confirmation, which is the Two of Wands, which is saying that most likely you're going to continue to keep working with them in some capacity. Explore the potential kind of paths in terms of what would happen if you were to consider entering into a relationship with this person. But for the time being, it's almost more beneficial for you to be this person who is unobtainable until you make a decision to decide whether or not you're going to move from point A to point B. And like I said, it's going to be about 3 months. So just knowing your astrology, if you kind of follow and see what's going to be happening in mid-February, That Saturn-Neptune conjunction is going to be moving into your 7th, where there's going to be a dissolving of certain relationships, new ones will come in. Eclipse is happening in your 5th house, which is going to be about bringing in some kind of romantic connection or something that makes you feel like your heart's on fire. And then as you go into next year, you'll see Saturn, Mars, Neptune, you know, kind of in the spring in the 7th house, where a relationship could actually be changing pretty dramatically to initiate something new, which would be like March into April. So the timing really aligns with a lot of the astrology. I believe, if I remember correct, I want to say May going into June is when Uranus goes into Gemini, and that's also going to do some stuff with your 7th house. So, you know, you have to be very careful. You have to take off the rose-colored glasses when you're going through the Saturn-Neptune transits. I do think that it's a matter of continuing to work together and really trying to kind of keep things very kind of, you know, PG and friendly and more professional. And seeing just exactly how consistent that person is going to be, and enjoying in the process, knowing that there's somebody that is there that's interested, but also not moving too quickly, because it does look like in doing so, it's going to upend a lot of things. So you almost have to kind of come up with a plan. And I do think with that 2 of Wands, it might mean there may be some interactions outside of the kind of setup or the environment that you have with this person now that may lead to connecting with them, traveling to see them, you know, meeting them, you know, briefly in another location. And even that seems more like, you know, social and kind of friendly. It's not necessarily indicating that there's a relationship. So you can have a friendship that can be building there. But I think that it's going to be a good move for you to be really thinking, you know, where you want to be about 3 to 6 months from now. If you do see yourself wanting to exit this relationship, don't create, you know, an issue that's going to definitely force you out of it. It's about making the conscious decision and going, you know what, this is going to cause a problem, and it's also not going to be the best way to kick something new off, and it's going to give you the opportunity to start thinking about what's going to be best for you as you're channeling that 9 of Pentacles energy. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely pretty on par with your astrology too. So let me know what happens, especially as we're kind of heading into the first couple of months of next year. What's up, Rosie? Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you. What's up, Carla? Or Kayla, sorry, Kaylar? Am I saying that right? I think it's just K. If you guys are signing up for the queue, I will add your guys' names in. So thank you for your patience. Looks like I've got Gemma and Amanda. You guys are next. All right, Kay, I'll get you in there. All right, so Gemma says, should I start my astro business in this new year? I'm thinking I'll start posting content on TikTok to get clients. All the free readings I've given while practicing have gone so well, but I'm nervous to put myself out there and fail. I am a Libra sun, Cancer moon, 29-degree Virgo rising. All right, well, let's take a look. That's exciting that you're considering doing that. I know a lot of like Virgo risings, especially over the next month or so, there's like a huge buildup of like really focusing on developing some kind of hobby or something that's more creative, that's a business, and like really gearing up with Saturn being in the 7th house to start connecting with other people. So let's take a look and see what the cards have to say in terms of what insight we can give her on initiating or starting this new business in the new year. And Jupiter is still in your Placidus 10th house too, so that'll continue to kind of bless you as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and these are the cards that I have for you. So we've got the Star card, we have got the Justice card, and we have got the 4 of Swords. It's interesting because I definitely feel like with your astrology, there's a lot of stuff that is gearing up that's saying, like, especially right around the time that you're seeing the conjunctions in Capricorn, like the first week of January, that you're already working, you're already doing it. Certainly like the day and like the kind of election astrology, like when you launch a business, I think is going to be really important because you're going to be able to look at that chart. You're going to go, okay, that's when it started, and you'll be able to see the transits and how it's going to be impacting what you're doing. So I would definitely elect or pick a good date and a good time to officially launch. But if you have already like started a website, if you have already created business cards, if you have already registered the name, or if you've already kind of created media under a certain name, technically the business has already been started. So you may want to go back and look at some of those dates, and you can kind of pull the charts and you can see what was happening there. But sticking to just the cards, you know, the Star card comes up, which is basically talking about probably the eclipse that's going to be happening for you. In Aquarius, we're going to see an eclipse the first half of February of 2026. And knowing that you're that 29-degree Virgo, most likely the eclipse is going to be somewhere still kind of within the realm of your 5th or 6th house cusp. You're going to have to look at the chart. If it does fall into your 5th house, it may be indicating that that is the direction that you're going in, that like a wish is being fulfilled, being a part of a community, being able to kind of offer services and connect and help heal other people. So we're getting that energy of Aquarius. The Libra kind of justice card is also coming in, and it's basically talking about that kind of connection and that unity that you have with other people and being able to offer truth. This is also about being able to kind of offer, you know, intuitive insights and being able to be a good judge of, you know, what's going on in the cosmos and being able to really build partnerships with other people. So I do feel like as you're getting into Aquarius season, it does seem like that is the theme. Obviously, I can think about this from the perspective of like the Aquarius moon through what is going to be the full moon that's going to be in Libra. So I would go and look at your astro software. You'll see that when the sun is in Aries and it's making an opposition, obviously, to the moon. Take a look at the dates around that because it looks like you're working with about February through April when you're going to kind of kick this off and get the ball rolling. Now, the other thing I think about is that the final card that you get is the Four of Swords. So it is saying that, you know, it's about pacing yourself. It may also mean that you're giving yourself a little bit more time to really kind of sit and like meditate with this and really think about when you intuitively or energetically feel ready. All readers are going to, you know, kind of do their own thing. Some of them are going to want to do it in person. Some don't mind doing it digitally. Other readers want to do the reading. They want to record it and then they want to send it. I think there needs to be a little bit more kind of meditating on, you know, what can I do so I'm not experiencing burnout, okay? Because Saturn and Neptune are still going to be in your 7th house. So this is going to be maybe offering services in a new way and connecting with people in a new way, but feeling like you have the capabilities of being able to ground your energy, not getting overwhelmed and taking too much on. So, you know, knowing that you have those really heavy transits in your 7th house, that could definitely be something that you could be dealing with. Also thinking about from like the whole sign perspective of Virgo, you know, the eclipse in Aquarius is going to talk about some shifts going on revolving around your schedule and like timing. So if you're currently working another job or if your schedule is limited and you only want to work during certain days or certain times, it's important to flush out all of those ideas of how do people contact you? How do they pay for you? How long are you going to do sessions? Are you going to be doing them in person or are you doing them at a distance? That kind of stuff, and start thinking about the scheduling flow. And I think you'll probably start kind of putting that together. I mean, literally come the beginning of this year. And likely within about at least 4 weeks, it looks like you're going to be ready to kind of hit the ground running and start doing that. But the Four of Swords is saying that you have some other things that you have to kind of think about, meditate on to get a clearer picture. So that way, as you start your business, you know exactly how that kind of schedule is going to kind of transpire. Something I think about, like my mentor told me, she was like, you know, as you begin is how you end. How you kind of go into the business and you set up your business and how you decide to schedule things and do stuff is going to set the tone and the precedent for working with clients for a very long time. So when I work with people, like when I have like students and stuff that I'm mentoring, I always tell them that because you don't realize just exactly how much energetically you can kind of become intertwined with people, especially, you know, when people are getting readings, they're not necessarily just getting readings because everything's fine. People are coming to you with relationship issues, financial concerns, health problems. They can be worried. And obviously they're looking for guidance. So really, I think a lot of this is just making sure that you're going to be able to kind of deal with that emotional kind of energetic upkeep, that you're going to have healthy boundaries with other people. And you're also going to be making sure that you're not just kind of like working back to back to back or 24/7. You're creating a schedule that is going to be sustainable and it's not going to be kind of like impacting you energetically. But definitely go and look at that time period, pretty much from like the Aquarius solar eclipse all the way through like the full moon of what's going to be happening in Libra. And it looks like that's going to be the time that you're going to be really having like your launching point. Congrats, that's really exciting. All right, we have got Amanda and then Fiorella, and then we've got Kay. Let me add you to my list. Let me update this and see. Sorry, we don't take Venmo, but we do Super Chat. All right, Amanda, it's so funny. Another 29-degree Virgo rising. Are you guys okay? I know the Saturn-Neptune transits are a lot. She says, it's me again, 29-degree Virgo rising, Cap Sun. My now ex-boyfriend, the Sag rising Cancer Sun, just stopped communicating with me 4 weeks ago, no conversation, and announced last week he's in a new relationship. I can't get out of my head and cried all week. Oh, can you pull some cards and let me know what I need to know? All right. Masks are coming off with that Saturn Neptune in the 7th house. You really start to kind of see where other people, especially in Pisces, are avoidant, or they're disappearing, or they're not like taking care of business. And then all of a sudden you realize what's actually going on behind the scenes. So let me take a look and see what I can tell you about this ex-Sag rising Cancer Sun who's in a new relationship. What does Amanda need to know? All right, so we have got the 2 of Pentacles, we have got the 10 of Cups, and we have got the 8 of Cups. So I can see this going in like 2 different directions, or I can see 2 interpretations for this, and it can be both for you, but also for him, and they can kind of mean different things. 2 of Pentacles makes me feel like it's about kind of feeling like most recently in the past with not communicating, going through a breakup after having gone back and forth for a little bit, that you're just kind of like all over the place. It's like, is it going to happen? Is it not? And also kind of feeling like you're being juggled, or maybe that you're kind of being like passed back and forth in a way, right? 2 of Pentacles is, do I want this or do I want that? And in the background, you see the choppy water representing all of like the emotional stuff that's going on about your physical state or about that connection to that person. It can also represent this feeling of things have been really kind of left up in the air and you didn't really know what direction things were going to go in. It can also be reflecting that he's been kind of picking and choosing, do I want this? Do I want that? And like, obviously you're the one kind of left holding the bag emotionally. In the current position, we actually have the 10 of Cups. So that can be a reflection of you kind of looking at what's going on with him, you know, from the sidelines, being like, he's in a relationship, like he passed me over, he's really happy, like, you know, and it looks like from the outside that things can actually be going really well. The other interpretation that I have is that in the same way that he's been kind of going back and forth and perhaps maybe found someone that he is kind of suggesting that he's committing to that makes him really happy, he's going public, it can mean that through the trade-off, because that's really what it is that's happened with you and her, it's actually providing you with an opportunity for you to find something that's most likely going to be longer lasting and more fulfilling, and something that might be real, right? We think of like the most fulfilling card you can get when it comes to relationships, and one of them would definitely be the 10 of Cups, because it does talk about going in the direction of long-term commitment or life partners or marriage or even having a family. And sometimes, you know, when you're going through kind of the finale of Saturn and Neptune on that 7th house, if you're in a relationship or if there is any potential or you're idealizing someone who's not ultimately going to lead you to the path of having true commitment in a union, it dissolves, right? And it ends up, you know, being some like really dramatic, emotional kind of Pisces thing. So even though I know that it sucks to feel like you've been replaced or that you've been holding out, waiting for him to come back and he chose somebody else, there's no real coming back from this now, for both of you, because it looks to me like the 8 of Cups is talking about, okay, you know, both parties are basically going their own way, and the 8 of Cups is about moving on and not looking back. Now, you might look at it as, well, he's already moved on, he's got another person, you know, like he's over me, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because the 8 of Cups only comes up when we feel like we have no other option but to leave. And it's almost like a card where if somebody doesn't ask you to stay, if somebody's not trying to emotionally connect with you, if somebody is not giving you what you need, you're like, okay, I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm going to move on. So he can feel like, because there has been this disconnect, and also because obviously there's another relationship that he's established, that he's like, oh, I've moved on. But for you, this can mean that you're looking at the situation going, okay, I would have given him all of those things, and I wanted to be with him, and I thought it was going to be him, and he didn't choose me, and clearly, you know, he's doing his own thing, so I'm going to move on. Like, there's no coming back from this. Because instead of being decisive or putting in the work or focusing on, you know, trying to kind of fix whatever the 2 of you guys kind of had going on, he chose to move on to another person. Number one, that's pretty quick. Number two, I'm not surprised, because when you think about the Sag rising horoscope, it talks a little bit about, with the Uranus transit that's been going on, that there can be this juggling, you know, between relationships, and Uranus represents that kind of connection with the mind and communication. Could have been somebody he met online, could have been somebody that, you know, he met that's at a distance, or he's kind of traveling back and forth. And a lot of the relationship can be based off of communication. Also, Jupiter is sitting on top of his sun or around his sun in the 8th house. So it represents this dramatic emotional transformation, inner transformation that he needs to go through, that it can almost feel like a purge. And then he will kind of hit reset when it comes to laying the foundation for his life and going deeper in a relationship or financially with someone, and also the sense of renewal. Does it look like he's happy? Yeah, but I think that you have the 8 of Cups, which is like, oh, bliss, I'm super happy, I've moved on, and this is somebody I see myself being with. And then the 8 of Cups, which is just like, you know, you going, that's it, that's the last straw for me, like I'm not coming back after this. And it can also represent that there is no guarantee that this is going to be something that's going to stick, right? It can mean that it looks good now from the outside, but you give it about, I would say, probably, you know, 8 to 10 weeks, and then you're going to start to kind of see the cracks that's going on. At least they will start to see the cracks between the two of them, especially if he has not healed some of the issues from the past. And sometimes we see that, right? Like people will get into a relationship, they, you know, have a breakup, or they have an off and on for a period of time, and things don't change. And then if you don't deal with it, or if you don't kind of heal some of those issues or become aware of it, you then move on to the next relationship, and you find yourself kind of in the same, you know, dynamics. And you may not see it at first, but I think that the 8 of Cups is not necessarily a positive card in terms of, you know, guaranteeing that there is going to be any kind of commitment between the two of them long term. It's kind of like, you know, they're going to play house, they're going to do their thing, it's going to be fun, and then there's a possibility that somebody's going to be like, okay, this is not working, I'm going to move on. I think it's obvious to me that there is some indecisiveness and inability for him to feel like he can just kind of settle, and I think that's part of what's happening. And, you know, I also think that a lot of Sag and Sag risings are going to do a little bit of like flip-flopping with relationships due to the nature of Uranus going into the 7th house. And a lot of it can also represent a lot of kind of stress in terms of communication. And if you don't want to be the person who's going through those lessons with him, it looks like he's going to go through it with another person. And I do think that just, you know, because of the nature of the 8 of Cups, I see this as like the ultimate betrayal. And you're like, okay, you could have worked things out with me, but you didn't. So like now I actually have to walk away. And it can also hurt because there could be this feeling of being left in the dark and thinking that maybe he was going to be, you know, doing some reflection on your relationship and coming back, when in reality, it looks like he just kind of went to the next best thing. And he's kind of, you know, playing out what could have been your guys' relationship with another person. If anything, I would say, yes, it hurts, but look at some of the issues that you guys had. Maybe you guys weren't meant for each other, I don't know, but some of the issues that you guys had really were about long-term settlement and commitment. And if you couldn't feel like you could do that with him, or you couldn't trust him, or he didn't see that with you, it's almost better that the breakup actually happened and that he is moving forward, because it's opening the door for you to finally look at him and go, okay, now I will walk away. Because I think you were waiting for him, and maybe you were, you know, kind of passing up opportunities or potential relationships with other people who could come in, but it may not have brought you total fulfillment. So if anything, I think it's doing you a favor. Yes, it hurts, but I think in the long run, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, you know, whether he comes back or not, you're going to be like, that was it for me. And it really kind of solidified the fact that I had to shut the door, walk away, and focus on somebody new who's going to be coming in. My Virgo risings are going to have such great transits over like the next month in the 5th house. I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're still kind of moving through some of like the healing phase of like the breakup. But there can be some really great changes that can be happening from January until about March, especially knowing that there's going to continue to be eclipses that are going to be happening in your 7th house whole sign. So you'll kind of see that, especially towards the latter part of the summer next year. Sending you lots of love. I know that that's difficult, but I think you're better off. Thanks, Gemma. You're welcome. All right, we've got Fiorella, and then who else is on here? And if you guys want to get in, let me know. Let's see. Thank you so much. I just sent my PayPal for a 3-card spread. Hey, Kayla, I'm not seeing your payment. Let me see here. What name did you send it under? Because last week we had all kinds of weird stuff with PayPal, and I want to make sure we are not having issues with it again. Because I do not have you, okay? So let me know. Thanks, Allison. I'm like getting nervous. I have like PTSD because like last week people were like, I'm sending a payment and nothing came through, and it seems to be happening again. Yes, you're next. I'm doing your reading next. I sent a 3-card pay in question. Uh-oh, I think it's doing it again. This is weird. Hey, can you bring me my cell phone so I can check my PayPal?
Where is it?
It's in the kitchen. Sorry, guys. PayPal's being so weird. It did the same thing last week, and then if there's like a delay that's on the desktop, so I'm gonna check it on my my cell phone app, so that way I can make sure that I see all of your guys' payments. So just hang with me for a second. Thank you. All right. Try not to use my phone on the internet, you know? Sorry, guys. Okay, I do see them on here. So there's definitely something up with the desktop. So I've got, okay, so this is who's next. Fiorella, Kimberly, Kayla, Catherine, Rachel, Patty, Brandon, Allison. If you guys heard your name, I have you. What's up, Patty? I got you. Sorry for the little minor glitch here. All right, so let's go ahead and get right back into it. Let's take Fiorella. All right, so she says, hey girl, hey. Fiorella says 3 cards. Ooh, the themes of the first 3 months, 1 card per month for 2026. All right, well, let's take a look at it. So we're going to do January, February, March of what you need to know. Such a cool spread. I love that. 1, 2, 3. All right. Here we go. January, February, March. Well, it only gets better and better, you know. There's that 10 of Cups again. I wonder if that's going to be the card of the evening. 4 of Cups for January is kind of somber. It's quiet. It's reflective. There can also be this feeling of being like, what's going to make me happy? Or, you know, there can also be a tendency to kind of hyperfixate or almost have like a glass is half empty mentality. Right? And so the truth is like, you know, the astrology, I don't know what's going on with your chart, but the astrology that's going on in January can feel really heavy for some people. Huge emphasis on Capricorn. Capricorn can represent feeling, you know, bombarded with work, lots of responsibility. These are transits that are ruled by Saturn and Pisces. And I feel like Saturn and Pisces is very much the 4 of Cups. It's like, well, that didn't work. And, you know, this isn't happening. And there's too much responsibility here. And I would say, try to really catch those kind of mental thoughts and the self-talk where if you're focusing on what's not going your way, what's not working out, we want to shift that very quickly. And I think a lot of people are going to feel that. I think they've actually been feeling that pretty much most of the Saturn and Pisces transit, like the last year or two. But this is the finale. So now we're going to start to see a lot of outer planets moving into fire and also air signs in this next year. So there's going to be quite a dramatic change that's going to be happening, I think, for a lot of people's perspective. So even if January feels like a little gloomy or that things aren't really panning out, try to kind of focus on resetting that mindset. February looks great. February, you get the 10 of Cups. So that can mean total emotional fulfillment. There can be a lot of good things that are happening, especially when it comes to relationships, your home and your family. This feeling that there is joy and that there is love and that there is abundance and like some really positive relational dynamics, I think, are going to kind of color your February. If you're not in a relationship, this can mean that there is possibility, you know, for connections to people who can have some kind of like long-term relationship potential. It can also mean that you're really focusing on strengthening the relationships and the bonds that you have in an existing relationship, or potentially even with like your home life. So parents, family, roommates, that kind of stuff. And feeling that you're reaching some kind of emotional goal and fulfillment. And so in February, we're going to have eclipses. So that's something to kind of think about. We're going to have one that's going to be taking place in Aquarius, which is going to be a solar eclipse mid-month. And then that will be a new nodal eclipse that's coming in. And Aquarius is about wishes, right? It does square Uranus, so it's going to represent some kind of out of the box or unexpected kind of changes. But nevertheless, I do think that you're going to be pretty, I think, satisfied with some of the positive things that are going to be kind of happening. And then in March, you get the Eight of Wands, where this is interesting because this is like the true astrological new year, especially as we see the sun ingress into Aries around like the third week of the month. And this is very much a card that is associated with taking action, you know, hitting the ground running, having a lot of momentum, having a lot of motivation, really feeling quite fulfilled. And some of that energy does kind of kick off when we see the solar eclipse in Aquarius, but it's really going to build from about mid-February all the way through about April of this next year. So it's interesting because it's a slow start to the new year, and then there's a lot of focusing on some of the emotional breakthroughs, the relationship fulfillment, the joy that's kind of coming back into your life, possibly from, you know, having some gratitude, you know, rituals or things that you're doing. You know, something that I always like to tell people to do, like on the new moons, is like sit down, you know, take 30 pieces of paper once a day, you know, take a piece of paper and a pen and write, you know, what you are so grateful for. And it can be something you already have. So you can be grateful for your family, you're grateful for your job, you're grateful for your health. But you can also be practicing this gratitude ritual where you're having gratitude for things that you have not received yet. So I'm grateful for, you know, the higher salary. I'm grateful for the new relationship. I'm grateful for all the doors that are opening. And you're really manifesting and working with setting some of those new intentions. And I think that that's something maybe that I would incorporate for the next 3 months to get out of the mindset of what's happened in the past or what's not fulfilling. So you can really start kind of getting into like the emotional kind of like segue into really believing that some of these shifts are actually going to, you know, come to reality and they're going to come true. And then you're going to start to see within, you know, I would say the first 8 weeks of the month, then all of a sudden there's a shift right when you're getting into March. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to feel more enthusiastic. And I think that you're also just going to get a lot of things done. Creative inspiration, feeling that maybe you're willing to travel, you're willing to take risks, and it's going to seem like it's a complete 180 from where you started the year. So hopefully that's helpful for you and motivating for your New Year's reading. You're welcome. Great cards. I like the perspective where it's talking about like gratitude and like, remember, glass is half full. That's how you want to kind of look at it. All right. So coming back to my little list here, we've got Kimberly. Okay. So Kimberly, you will be next. And then we've got Kayla. What's up, Kimberly? Kimberly has a 3-card reading. She said, hey, Candace, wondering how I should end the old year and begin the new. At a big party or dinner with a girlfriend or by myself, closing out the old year, manifesting the new. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards recommend for you in terms of your New Year's stuff. And I'm not surprised. I just got done doing the astro weather for Sunday. Talking about how New Year's, we start seeing Mercury coming into a square with Neptune, where it's like, do I go out or do I stay home? Like, do I travel or do I stay, you know, kind of close by? Like, what do I want? Where am I going? A lot of our New Year's resolutions, I think, are going to stick a lot more the 2nd or the 3rd of January. Certainly, I wouldn't want to be setting New Year's resolutions until Mercury's in Capricorn, and it'll go into Capricorn later in the day, in the afternoon on the 1st. So I think that a lot of us are going to get a little intoxicated, have a couple drinks and be like, this is what I'm going to do. And then we're going to forget, you know, or then we're going to like not be able to kind of see that motivation continue. So save it closer to the full moon. All right. So let's tell Kimberly, does she do something with a friend? Does she go to a party, hang out with a girlfriend, be social? Or does she focus on staying in and doing something on her own? We have got the Magician card. We've got the Devil card, and we've got the Sun card. What? My dear, 3 majors. So you really feel like you want like a major reset going into the new year, right? The Magician card I feel like is great because that's like a card of manifestation. It's basically saying you have options, you have choices. Really, you can do whatever you want to do. If you do decide that you want to go out, there will be plans. If you do decide to stay in, you can also do something to kind of ritualize the new year and kind of like welcome those energies in. But it's about manifesting because this is a card that is as above, so below. So I think with the Magician card coming up, the question is, what is it that you're trying to manifest more of in 2026, right? Think about that. Obviously, the Magician has everything kind of at his disposal if he wants to focus on finances and career, if he wants to focus on creativity, if he wants to focus on love, if he wants to focus on money. And really, I think that the Devil card coming up is saying that this is about breaking what feels like the blockages and the limitations that you have had in this last year, right? Because the devil talks about being tied down, not being able to move forward, feeling stuck. In a way, I feel like the magician and the devil card is like almost like a ritual of saying, okay, you know, whatever has happened in this last year, staying in this last year, I'm cutting cords, I'm breaking free, I am getting out of what has felt like a year where I've been either in the dark or under a rock or kind of limited or low, and I'm ushering in this brand new energy, which is the Sun card. So I do think the Sun card is saying that part of this is about being joyful. It's about having lots of color. It's about having lots of fun, doing things that feel very youthful, you know, being able to feel like you can bring in joy. So as long as you're doing this, regardless of where you go, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like if you naturally feel as if, you know, 2025 has been like this black cloud that's been hanging around, certainly doing some kind of like a ritual, I think would be a really good idea. But it's more about closing things out and banishing things, right? If you think about the astrology, Mercury represents, you know, that connection to the South Node in Virgo. So a lot of people are going to go, well, I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to change my job, or I'm going to get back to the gym. And as Mercury is squaring Neptune, it's in superior square. So it's saying that if we can first focus on what we're dissolving, Saturn and Neptune, and what we're releasing, or any, you know, self-sabotaging habits or any isolation habits, then we'll be able to kind of overcome and see more clearly. I do think that if this were me looking at the cards, there's not other people coming up. These are all pretty much solitary kind of energies. It does talk about focusing on maybe doing like a, you know, reversal spell or cutting cords, or you're doing like a detox, or you're doing like a detox bath or a protection spell or something to kind of like bid farewell to all of the blockages and all of like the more negative energies that you've experienced in this last year, because you're really focusing on bringing back the joy. And like you can still do something with friends if you want to do something once the sun has come up during the daytime. So like, you know, January 1st, if you want to go and hang out with friends and grab brunch or do something, you can do that. But I do think that the sun does represent that energy of our core vitality, our ego, our career, our joy, and it's very personal. And so I think that you're going to get a lot more out of possibly doing something on your own to really kind of hit reset and focus on how you're really closing out 2025 and then ushering the light back in and having more fun, having more creativity, and feeling more personally fulfilled in 2026. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Some very interesting cards, especially when you get all majors, you know, they get really loud. All right, let's see, who else do we have here? So we've got Kayla, and then Catherine, and then Rachel. And let's see what Kayla has to say. All right, Kayla says, what's next in my love life? Is it with someone new or someone I have history with? Thank you so much. I love all your videos. Thanks, Kayla. I appreciate you. All right, and then I think you sent me a little love note here. Libra Sun, Pisces Moon, Gemini Rising, if you need that info. Well, it's funny that you're asking about, is there somebody new coming in? Is it somebody who I have history with? I would imagine a lot of that's the Mercury retrograde that you've been having in your 7th house the last, well, I guess it was kind of like last month, but we finally came out of the shadow at the beginning of December. So I know a lot of Gemini risings were like, am I staying? Am I going? So let's see what the cards have to say. What can we tell Kayla about her love life in this next year? Does it look like she's dancing with the past, or is there possibly something new on the way? All right, the cards that I get for you are the Empress, the Devil, and the Eight of Swords. So I think there's one thing that I would really kind of focus on, is I would focus on some of the squares that have been happening with Saturn, because the Devil card can represent Saturn in the tarot. And what's interesting is we've got the Empress card, which represents growth and life and beauty and prioritizing yourself. And sometimes this means also that you have to really put yourself first and put kind of your feelings on the wayside to really prioritize making sure that you're getting everything that you need. Now, it's also a card of knowing your worth. This is about sometimes raising your standards. And with that Empress that's facing the Devil, it tells me that you're kind of looking at some situations going like, is this good for me? You know, like, should I be doing this? Like, should I be going back and forth with another person? Or like, should I be, you know, waiting for this person to kind of get through whatever they've been dealing with? And so it's reminding you that if you do decide to go back and, you know, kind of dance with the past, It's almost like you're weighing, like there's the devil I know, and then there's the potential future. And it's actually saying that there's something built into a past connection that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be determined or dissolved or whatever before you move forward. Because it can be a block. So the devil card can be something that kind of gets its claws into you and it brings you back. So if you are going back and forth with another person, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, but it can mean that you're having a difficult time moving on, or that there is like a sense of not getting closure in a relationship, or feeling like you're just going to keep repeating the same patterns until you make the conscious decision to go, it's not really about you, it's about me. And maybe feeling that you're outgrowing that connection and realizing that you want and you need and you deserve more. So you're not willing to continue to stay in the same cycle. This does have like a working timeline of like, between December and March. That's what these cards really kind of represent. So between now and the spring, there is kind of like this rebirth energy that's going to be happening. As a Gemini rising, I think about Jupiter, being in Cancer. And really what you're looking for, because Jupiter rules your 7th house, is you're looking for somebody that feels like home, or you're looking for somebody who chooses you or values you or wants to make you feel safe and secure, right? And so I think that the bigger issue is really kind of asking yourself, do you feel like that person from the past has something to really offer you? Because if not, or if they've kind of taken you for granted, or if they haven't been consistent or stable in the past, you're realizing, you know what, maybe it's time for me to move on. Now I say that because the 8 of Swords comes up, and these are the 2 cards that I see a lot when people are like stuck in a relationship, stuck in a job, stuck in like a bad habit or a bad cycle. At least with this card, it's a minor card, so you can get out of the cycle. It can take you about 8 weeks for you to totally clear this out. But the 8 of Swords is about kind of going, well, I'm still comparing, other people to him, or I'm still kind of thinking about him, or it's hard for me to kind of like break away. And it's like this mental limitation with moving, past them, or moving, beyond them. This can also mean that there is this inability, or not really consciously wanting to kind of admit some of the stuff that might be a potential problem with this partner. So this, regardless of whether or not there's somebody coming or not, because it's not being defined, it's saying this needs to be dealt with. And there needs to be a sense of you really looking at people in a way that you're not like idealizing them or putting them on a pedestal. This is also about you realizing that you actually can get out there and you can meet somebody. It is possible. You just have to get out of some kind of limiting, preconceived kind of mindsets about love and also about relationships. The card that is on the bottom is the Ace of Wands. So I get the impression that you're really working with this during like the first 2 months of the year. So until about March, maybe April, there is a sense of really, working on yourself, prioritizing yourself, really becoming, I think maybe the partner that you would want, and like treating yourself the way that you'd want to be treated, and like creating those boundaries, maybe breaking out of some of the past habits of going back to somebody or going back and forth with somebody. And then as you're getting into the springtime, kind of March and April, when that Ace of Wands really kind of comes to life, then there can be something new. But it's really encouraging you to really get closure and kind of wrap up the past, so you know for sure it's done. And then you can proceed forward with a new connection, which looks like could be with a fire sign. So it could be an Aries, could be a Leo, could be a Sag. Somebody who's going to come in very quickly, especially in the spring of this year, and kind of really like light up your world. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Kayla. All right, we've got Rachel, and let's see, I take that back. We've got Catherine, Rachel, and Patty. You guys are all next. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. And if you guys want to get in the queue, scan the QR code right up here and you can get your reading. Okay, so Catherine says, hi Candace, love your channel. I popped in a couple of months ago for a reading about a guy at work and a possible connection. I think I'm about 10 years older and I can't see your whole story, unfortunately, because I'm using the app. A guy at work, and possibly, if you're in the chat, if you want to fill in the blanks for me, that would be great. Just so you guys know, if you're sending payments, try to keep the memo short so I can read it, unless you guys want to put it in the chat. Sorry, PayPal sucks. So let's see what we can tell Catherine. I kind of get the gist of what you're saying. There was a guy at work, possible connection, but Catherine, if you're in the chat, fill in the blanks for me, please, please, please. So what can we tell Catherine about this connection with this guy at work? She's a little bit older. Sounds like she feels like it's awkward. But what can you tell us about this connection? Ooh, okay. There's the devil card again. You're welcome, Kayla. All right, well, the devil's back. Let's see what else he has to say. All right, so these are the cards that I get for you, Catherine. Nine of Cups and the Star card. Interesting. I kind of wonder if the devil card, I mean, it like kind of jumped out of the deck, if that was coming up because there was like a sense of you feeling like, is this going to connect or is this not? And it could mean, is it weird because you guys work together? Is it weird because of like the age, you know, kind of perception? Is it weird because somebody's a superior or what the deal is? It does kind of talk about in previous months that there has been a sense of either wanting to kind of move on from this, but getting pulled back in, or feeling that there is just something about this person that you just can't quite like detach from, or that they can't quite detach from you. It is in the past, so it is going to be easier to work with that energy, especially as you're kind of moving into the Nine of Cups, where this talks about manifestation, wish fulfillment, feeling totally emotionally fulfilled, feeling ecstatic because you're getting what you want. This can also mean that, you know, if you're hoping that this could, you know, kind of transpire into something more, that there's potential for that. All roads are kind of pointing in the direction of like basically over the next 9 weeks, especially some kind of significant shift that can be potentially happening right around like the February period. The Star card comes up and it talks about wishes. So usually my two wish cards are the Nine of Cups and the Star card. Now it can mean that you're hoping that this person is, you know, trying to pursue you more. You're hoping that this person is going to kind of like take the lead. Maybe you're hoping that there's going to be more opportunities to socialize and kind of connect and do things on like a social level outside of work. But it does look like you're moving past the phase of where it's either been limited or blocked, or where there's been some confusion or some issues regarding, you know, maybe power struggles in the relationship, and like if it could potentially be something. Now you're segueing into the energy of being like, if I want it, it's there, I know I can have it. And if you do decide that you want to kind of get to know this person, I don't think it's going to be all purely physical. I do think that because the Star card talks a lot about that mental connection, building a friendship, getting to know each other, really focusing on, you know, the common interests that you guys have, that it can be like this blossoming of a friendship that could potentially be something more. Also opportunities for like integrating your lives socially and not necessarily just looking at all of the connections being like just at work. So give me feedback, because I'd be curious to kind of hear what the rest of your question was, because unfortunately I can't read it all. Bottom of the deck, I get the Eight of Swords. So I think that this is really talking about kind of moving forward and letting go of any preconceived notions of why it won't work, or, you know, whether it's the age differences or working together, or the possibility of kind of maybe keeping yourself a little bit more protected and kind of guarded because you're hoping not to kind of get hurt in the process of like trying to put yourself out there and dating this person. And letting that go. And yeah, there are some things that you might feel like are working against you, especially with the Devil card and the Eight of Swords coming up. But I can also see this in a way where you're like trying to think of all the ways why it won't work, rather than just kind of giving it a chance and seeing if it can develop into something. And if you open yourself up to that with the Nine of Cups and the Star card, it means that there can actually be like a lot of healing that can kind of happen in this encounter, and that you may pleasantly be surprised that there is some kind of potential spark here that can grow to be something more. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And if you do pop in, let me know what the rest of your question was, because I would love to see the rest of it so I can give you clear context on that. All right, we've got Rachel, Patty, and Brandon. You guys are all in the queue. And if you guys are tuning in, you can scan the QR code if you want to get a reading. What's up, Rachel? She says, hi, can you pull a card for me on love, work, and one overall? My life has changed intensely due to a very recent loss. I'm heartbroken and trying to keep going. I don't know if, Rachel, if you're there, fill in the blanks for me. Sorry, guys, I can't see all of your comments. And that goes for everybody else who's in the chat. If you guys want to put your question in the chat so I can see it, so that way I can give you all of my feedback, I appreciate it. Well, Rachel, I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with a loss. I am sorry to hear that. Let's take a look at what insight I can give you with, you know, to keep going, and maybe give you some insight on helping you with the process of healing and what happens next. So we're going to do one on love, one on work, and one overall. one on love, one on work, and we've got one overall. Okay. Love, work, overall. So, one thing I would say is like, these are pretty good cards. So if you're going through, keep on going, don't give up yet. I think the Ace of Cups coming up for love is talking about the renewal in the sense of like love and relationships and somebody or something new coming into your life. However, sometimes when I see the Ace of Cups coming up, it does kind of symbolize that there has to be this emergence and that there can be this huge purification and emotional kind of purging that can happen as you're getting ready to kind of initiate this new energy. It's not unusual to kind of see that coming up. So whether it's a really close family member or a friend or even a potential romantic relationship, whoever it is that you're feeling like you're grieving or that you're losing, it does have this renewal quality that's like, okay, one person's leaving your life and something new is coming in, and especially kind of getting stronger like in the spring. So as we're getting into like Pisces season, that's when I want you to pay attention. As we're getting into Cancer season, that's when I want you to pay attention. That's when you're going to see most of the action that's happening in relationships. But this could literally mean a new person is coming in. Not necessarily relationship renewal, a new person. Okay, so water signs can come up. Obviously, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio are kind of the signs I'd pay attention to. I also think that this is talking about somebody who can come in that can almost be helping release some of the pain or release some of the damage that you've had in existing or previous relationships, and helping you kind of open yourself up again to love and relationships or commitment. So that's looking pretty good. On work, you get the Ten of Pentacles. So the Ten of Pentacles is basically one of the top tier cards that you can get when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your career, also when it comes to your health. So it can be saying that all things in that regard are going to look rather healthy. Ten of Pentacles can mean that you're making long-term plans for your career, or you're kind of making investments, or maybe there's a sense of you going in the direction of a career that you feel like it's going to be more fulfilling or provide you with a lot more financial stability. It can mean that this is a process that you're really working with all year. From what I remember about some of your transits is that you're probably dealing with a lot of the grief and the loss that's kind of stemming from, some of the Pluto squares or some of the Saturn Neptune stuff. But I do think about lots of changes that are going to be happening for a lot of my, Virgo and Virgo risings with their job. And so I think about Uranus going into the 10th house. I think about you getting the 10 of Pentacles. Yes, there can be sporadic changes to your work, especially in February, and then you'll see that again kind of June and July. But it looks like all roads are leading to a higher status, making more money, having more stability. And you may feel like everything is kind of upended right now. Like I see a lot of clients sometimes where they go through changes in threes. They'll be like, well, my dad just died and I lost my job and, I had a huge change in my relationship. And I'd be like, okay, watch for the other big changes that are happening, because it looks like there is fulfillment that's being reached in your career, and then it's giving you the space and the ability to focus on kind of bringing in this new love in this relationship. But I think overall, the Three of Wands is you have to keep pushing forward. And this is also kind of readjusting and kind of evaluating where you're at and taking it one day at a time, not feeling like you have to be pedal to the metal with all things. I think I would also say for a lot of my Virgo risings that like the next, couple of weeks are really going to be about how can I bring more joy in. And it can also potentially, give you the opportunity to kind of really focus on if somebody comes into your life, are they, being like that soundboard for you? Are they like supporting you in any way? Are they able to make you believe in love again? And so I think that the Three of Wands is saying there's different paths that are opening up. And maybe you're not looking at relationships in a very fixated way. Maybe you're not looking at work in a fixated way. Maybe you're kind of keeping an open mind about where you could potentially see yourself going in the future. Certainly traveling can be really, beneficial for you. I do think that this is really positive for you, especially when it's just getting out of your routine. I'm seeing your comment here. Sorry, I'm not sure if my relationship or work is long lasting. No, but this is where you're basically going. So if you're asking me what I see with where things are going, this is new. This is new relationship stuff. This is not old relationship stuff. So this is going to be talking about some new opportunity that's going to be coming in. Career-wise, the Ten of Pentacles does talk about reaching a point where you're going to be making some big decisions that are going to be better for you in the long term. So if you're looking at your career going, this is not sustainable, it's pointing you in the direction of doing something that's going to be sustainable and potentially something that's going to pay you better as well. Ten of Pentacles can talk a lot about getting into a job that has benefits, stuff that's going to give you, room for growth or, commitment for signing on for, X amount of months or X amount of years. And also something that you may potentially stick with for quite a long time. So if you're not seeing that right now, Ten of Pentacles is saying that there's something new that's coming in that's going to give you the opportunity to commit to something in the long term. It also means that this is like you thinking more from a financial kind of perspective. Okay, if this is something where I'm kind of hitting a dead end, where am I pivoting and going into a different direction? But the Three of Wands, like I said, is overall saying, hey, the real focus here is kind of saying to myself, if I'm hitting walls and if things aren't necessarily going forward, certain things are going to be renewing and certain things are going to be closing out. So it might mean you look at the relationship and go, yeah, I need something new, relationship department all around. Okay, so you'll do that. And you'll especially see that in the spring. If you're feeling like you're hitting a dead end with work and you're feeling like you need to kind of close that cycle out, it means that you're going to be thinking about something that's going to be more capable of being able to kind of provide for you, like financially or fiscally in the future. So you're making more decisions with your head rather than your heart. Three of Wands also might indicate that you're willing to look into, new potential ventures, or that you're more interested in the possibility or the potential of being able to consider, moving or relocating or looking at jobs that might be in different places. Doesn't mean you have to move, but it might indicate travel in some way. And this can also mean that you'll see things kind of transpire in threes. So within 3 months, and then you're going to see there's going to be potentially 3 different changes. And this is a card that's good. It's good for movement. It also means that you have the opportunity to have some support along the way. Because if you see with the Three of Wands, there's these 3 amigos that are kind of surveying the land and kind of getting an idea of where they're going to go, watching the ships coming in. It basically means that you're going to be really proactive and trying to initiate new relationships and also focus on, major career changes. But I think this is more about accomplishments. And then you're going to be shifting into kind of going, okay, I've done that. Now the next phase is me just waiting for everything to come in. So it's also a visualization. Naturally, I think for a lot of people, December and also January are going to feel like wrapping up months. And then you're going to find as you're getting into, February and March, there's going to be this huge segue, especially for a lot of Virgo and Virgo risings. A lot of you guys are going to start a new schedule or a new job, or you're focusing on your health. And a lot of you guys are also going to find that there is going to be this sense of really needing to release and let go of a relationship around the beginning of March when you have an eclipse. Both of these things are being kind of indicated in your cards. So maybe you're just feeling like you're hitting a wall right now, but I'm going to tell you, everything else is going to shift as soon as you start seeing that change that's going to happen after February. Libra rising. Okay, there was the Taurus sun in the 9th, right? Libra moon. So Saturn and Neptune are going to go into the sign that's going to be opposing your moon and your ascendant. Yeah, huge relationship changes for sure. But I think it's somebody new. Right? Especially if you're a Libra rising. I think a lot of Libra risings are looking at if they're in relationships right now, Saturn going into the 4th house, being the 4th house ruler going into the 7th is this is not emotionally fulfilling. And then Neptune is where you start to see things kind of dissolve. So look at the degrees. Saturn's going to get up to, I think, about 15 degrees of Aries next year. And then I think Neptune gets up to about, 4, maybe 5. I haven't quite looked at Neptune yet. But if you're having any direct oppositions, that can definitely represent keeping somebody at some kind of safe distance, and then you're going to be potentially considering initiating something new. But February through April is when you're going to see the biggest changes in relationships if you're a Libra rising. I'd be more focused on what's going on with work now, because it does feel like there need to be some pretty serious or decisive decisions that are going to be made as to whether or not you want to stay in this type of work for a long period of time, right? Keep those options open, and also be willing to kind of get outside of the box, whether it's dating new people or if this is you exploring new career potentials. Jupiter in your 10th house is definitely going to help you see things a little bit more positively and optimistically. It can also be about learning. It can be about training, certification, learning something new that you can do at your convenience. It's not necessarily going to school and getting a degree, but something that you enjoy learning about. Hopefully that's helpful, and watch for that new relationship opportunity, because the Ace of Cups is pretty positive in that department, but usually there's a clearing out that happens when you get aces, because you have to start fresh. All right, so let's take a look and let's see, who else do we have? There we go. So Kat's back. Thank you, Kat. All right, so she says, hi, Candace. Sorry I missed you in real time. The rest of my question is basically just saying the interactions with me and him have been weird, and we're planning on shutting it down. Also was hoping for a double reading for Life, love, and 2026, if possible. Can I apply that to a future reading? No, I'll do the reading for you. All right, so I'll give you 3 cards for what's going on in 2026. And also, now that I have your full question on that guy, let's pull the cards on that. So you guys were having the interactions, they got weird, and now you're planning on shutting it down. What's up, Nat? All right, so we're going to start first with the guy, and then we'll do the 2026 reading for you. I like how everybody's like 29 degrees, like Virgo rising, or they're Libra rising. Everybody's feeling the oppositions. All right, this is going to be on the guy, and it got weird, and now you're thinking about shutting it down. Although the cards seem pretty positive, actually. Temperance, 8 of Cups, 6 of Pentacles. I could see where you're like, it's time to walk away. But the Temperance card is actually saying, like, let things cool off. Like, let it be in a cool off period. Because the final card being the 6 of Pentacles is about this give and take. So it's not necessarily being like, black and white, I'm shutting it down. It's more about you going, something doesn't feel like it's quite balanced yet. Or maybe there is this feeling of, one person is kind of pushing and one person is like pulling. And the Temperance card is a card of timing. So this can also be saying that there is something going on that's kind of like both parties are trying to kind of work out or heal before they're really finally ready to kind of show up and do a relationship thing. It can also mean that there is a need for you to kind of get through, more or less the next couple of weeks before you make a bigger decision. Now, you have free will. If you decide that you're going to shut it down and you're done, you can. But I think the 8 of Cups is kind of where you're at right now, where you're like, that's it. I'm walking away from this. Like, I'm not really getting what I need. Like, things feel kind of out of balance, or there's like a power dynamic balance that's out of whack, and you're ready to go. But the final card is the 6 of Pentacles, which means that there is an opportunity, if you can look at it and kind of hold the line and be like, hey, I'm going to keep to myself. Unless I say something change, I'm not going to be making any moves. You may actually find that he can meet you halfway, and that there can be like a reevaluation that can happen over about the next 6 to 8 weeks. And there is an opportunity for things to kind of get into better balance. But I do think the Temperance card can also represent, with the 8 of Cups, that you have felt that it's maybe like a one-way, situation, and like you're not getting a lot of clarity, and like nobody's really asking you to kind of proceed forward or asking you to kind of move forward with them. And you're kind of saying to yourself, like, am I going to get hurt? Like, is it a good idea for me to stay here? And I think that there is some of that that's kind of going on, but if you kind of redirect the energy back to you with that 6 of Pentacles and you hold the line, somebody can meet you halfway, then you can be like, okay, well, unless they're going to be making a move, I'm not really going to be investing myself too much. But this is about emotionally detaching right now. It's about you being like, I don't know where it got weird. I don't know what happened, but like, I'm not playing games, and I'm more focused on, kind of protecting myself. And there's interest there, but like, I don't want to deal with the weirdness at work, so I'm going to keep to my own. And then you wait for that person to kind of come around, right? And see what they end up doing. But it does look like the 6 of Pentacles is like, you're going to get what you put into something. So if you're just deciding to be like, okay, I'm done, he'll be like, okay, fine, we can be done. But if you don't feel like you want to be done, or if you feel like there's still some kind of emotional connection there, you can have that connection with him still in the future. It's just a matter of waiting for like a better opportunity for timing. And I think that I wouldn't look at it as totally black and white right now. And also there is like a sense of you being like, I want to be the one to walk away. I don't want it to be him. I want it to be me that shut it down. So that way you're not facing any potential like rejection. I'm just double checking all of this. And then let's look at the other card that you have for a review of life and love in 2026. Nat, we already did your reading. You're gonna have to, I don't know if you can scroll back, but you'll be able to find it there. But yeah, you missed it. All right, let's do 2026 for life and love for Kat. We've got the Wheel of Fortune. We've got the Two of Swords. We've got the Four of Swords. I like this as a card of pace, cards of pacing yourself, right? I kind of feel like what's interesting is like people are going to be really taken back by the energy in 2026 just because it's all fire, it's all air. There's going to be so many things that are moving so quickly. And you getting the Wheel of Fortune is basically saying like the wheel of fate is turning. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad. It's just saying you're getting ready to kind of receive some things that are going to be changing. And if you have felt like you're on the fence about stuff with the Two of Swords coming up, or you're like, do I want to make a change with work? Do I want to make a change with my love life? Like, do I want to put myself out there? You know, do I want to take chances? I feel like it's kind of finally pushing you off the ledge, you know, because the Two of Swords, it can become so hyper-focused on thinking things through that it can miss opportunities. And this, in a way, is going to kind of thrust you into feeling like there's going to be change. I also feel like part of what's going on with the Four of Swords, you've got a couple swords here, that there's a lot of instincts that are kind of kicking in where you're like, okay, maybe I should, you know, be cautious and like not make this move yet. Or maybe I should be thinking about, you know, taking a step back and like letting the universe intervene. If you're not sure the answer, do nothing, because I feel like the Four of Swords is just saying rest and recuperate. And this is the energy right now, guys. Saturn and Neptune and in the late degrees of Pisces. We're not going to really feel like things are even beginning to move forward until about February, you know, March and April. So from that moment on, you know, you're going to have a little bit more clarity, but in your chart, it's almost like you're having a difficult time trusting your intuition, or, you know, maybe picking a lane and kind of sticking with something. I do feel like the Four of Swords does represent also like resting and not feeling like you need to take action right now, at least not for like the next 2 to 4 weeks. Perhaps you're going to see a lot more action that's going to be going on as you're getting into the fire months, because this talks a lot about during the air periods. So Aquarius season, Gemini season, Libra season, it's more integrating some of the changes that have happened during the fire season, which is going to kick off at the end of March. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Am I supposed to be doing that? So that way you're not stressing and worrying about worst case scenario and like deciding whether or not you're going to make moves in relationships. The universe is going to intervene, and it's going to do what it needs to do to get you at the right place at the right time. Rest, contemplation, not overthinking, realizing also that sometimes some of the best things that can kind of happen out of the blue and unexpectedly. That's what kind of comes up with the Wheel of Fortune card. And that's a card that's strongly associated also with Sagittarius. So that can mean that some of the stuff started coming up for you recently in Sagittarius season. Maybe you're going to feel like, you know, the next couple of weeks, it's just more about contemplation about what needs to kind of wrap up. And I would say everybody's going to benefit from that energy. And then as we get into eclipses in February and March, things are going to be quite different. We're going to see a lot of radical change those 2 months. So take time to kind of reflect on where you've been blocked. Ask the universe to kind of help you and assist you and move past some of these blockages. And I think it's going to be an awesome year. There's going to be a lot of serendipitous things that are going to be happening for you that are going to be, I think, like very fortuitous. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Kat. Thanks for your patience. All right. So let's see who we have next. We've got Patty, Brandon, and Allison. You guys are all up in the queue. And Rona, or Nana. Sorry, I can't always see the preview. Nana. So let's take Patty and then Brandon. Thanks, Kat. All right, so let's see what Patty has to say. What's up, Patty? And if you guys want to get in the queue, scan the QR code. Otherwise, we're going to put 5 minutes on the clock. And then we are going to close down the queue. All right, so Patty says, hi, Candace, level 4. Curious what the cards tell you about my work job situation during the next several months. My manager has always been a challenge to work with. Let me know the rest of your question. I apologize, but PayPal's being a stinker. They must have changed something because it doesn't update on my computer like it used to. There she is. My direct manager has always been a bit of a nemesis. I have a gut feeling he's going to try to set me up to take a fall. What do you see as a Libra rising, Scorpio moon, Cancer sun? Well, I'll tell you, you know, having... having Jupiter on your sun does in a way kind of protect you, especially from enemies, because Jupiter rules your 6th house of like enemies at work. I would be thinking about personally the eclipses that are going to be coming, you know, obviously in the new year. especially in Virgo. So like Virgo things can mean, you know, arch nemesis at work because it's your 12th house. It could also mean that there's stuff that's been going on with people at work that's coming to the surface. And you'll see that right around the end of February, beginning of March, when those eclipses and those retrogrades are kind of hanging around in Pisces. So let's take a look. Let's see what we can tell you about this future kind of situation potentially happening at work with an arch nemesis boss. And are you going to be set up? 1, 2, 3. All right, so you got an extra card. We've got the Star card. We have got the 7 of Pentacles. We have got the 10 of Pentacles, and then you got an extra card, which I'm going to hold on to for a second. But the Star card and the 7 of Pentacles is actually pretty positive. I mean, this is basically saying that if you're hyper-focused on being able to, you know, achieve unity and working alongside your coworkers or working in a part of a team, like there is an opportunity to kind of heal, maybe not totally fix, but kind of heal some of the rifts so things can be a little bit more, I think, you know, positive for everybody who's working together. This is also the finale of like Saturn and Neptune getting ready to leave your 6th house, where you're just willing to work through it. And then as it goes into your 7th house, it's going to be about confronting other people when it comes to some of these like relational dynamics. But it is room for hope that things can actually improve. Now you have the 7 of Pentacles coming up, which is the right now card, which basically means that your focus here is for you to be like, okay, I'm going to keep my nose down. You know, I'm going to get my work done. I'm not going to cause any problems. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. And certainly like the last month or so, you've seen, you know, Mars come into a square with Neptune. So it's communication issues of people at work. You've also seen Venus come into a square with Saturn and Neptune. So that's also been kind of difficult in terms of communication and feeling that there is some respect or warmth with people at work. All that's ruled by Jupiter. So whenever you see the planets going through Sagittarius, the last one to go through there is Mercury. Mercury is going to be squaring around the 31st. Could be some critical kind of feedback, but I feel like as long as you're doing your due diligence to get your work done and you're kind of keeping, you know, to yourself. And like also this is about you looking at your job being like, you know, how much work is too much work? How much do I want to be contributing to this? Is this something that I want to keep doing? You know, do I want to stay in this department or even in this job? And questioning whether or not it's going to yield results. The final card you get is the 10 of Pentacles. So this tells me that, yeah, I don't think you're crazy. I definitely think that there can be some kind of like, you know, challenge or hostility kind of going on with somebody at work. But I do feel like this 10 of Pentacles does talk a lot about like having stability and having security and, you know, being able to kind of work your way up in ranks or, you know, being able to get to a point where you can be at a position for a long time. So there's nothing here that's telling me that you're going to get fired or that you're going to get let go. I think that maybe you're just kind of reflecting on what has happened over the last several months and you're just like, am I wasting my time or is my contribution not being recognized or am I getting blamed for things that, you know, really like my boss should be handling? But 10 of Pentacles means you're solid. This was the extra card that jumped out. The extra card was the Hierophant card. So that basically talks about some bigger changes that are likely going to be happening for you at the end of April going into May. But the Hierophant talks about counseling, getting feedback. It can also be about going and talking with like HR or, you know, getting some direction from somebody who can kind of feel like a mentor or somebody that you respect at a higher level. And that could be at work, but it can be in your career in general. And getting some guidance in regards to how you handle this relational issue diplomatically with them and how to better be prepared. So I think that maybe it might mean that you're going to talk to HR and be like, hey, I have some concerns or something going on, like, you know, or it might mean that you're talking to, you know, a superior or somebody at work being like, hey, I get the vibe that, you know, there's some animosity here and like, I don't want there to be any issues, and like letting other people know that like you're aware of it and you're trying to work with it and getting ahead of the problem before something potentially gets blamed on you. Potentially. I'm not even seeing anything in the reading that's saying that you're gonna, you know, potentially get kind of thrown under the bus. But if it were to happen, my money would be on the eclipse at the beginning of March with that retrograde, because that is gnarly. Does talk about some big changes happening in your day-to-day work and some miscommunications potentially with bosses. The positive is that it's going to be trining, you know, Jupiter throughout that transit, and Mercury will actually retrograde in conjunct Venus. So it's a way for you guys to be able to kind of bury the hatchet. And it can mean that other people are having issues, you know, with this person at work, or some of the misunderstandings or miscommunications or lack of other people's ability to do things really starts to kind of be more visible. and acknowledged also by like upper management. So I actually think the Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus is going to expose where other people are not doing their job, or they're blocking you or creating problems for you in some way, and you may get more recognition throughout the process. Everybody at work gets along with the exception of this guy. Yeah, but I think that, you know, like I said, something about this makes me feel like you're going to get some advice or something from somebody who's been there for a long time, or somebody who's like higher up. And I would assume the Libra risings are going to manage pretty well, with Jupiter being in the 10th house and some of the trines to Mercury. Whatever is revealed or whatever changes about your department or who's working there, or, you know, your fellow employees, is actually going to benefit you in the long run. With 10 of Pentacles coming up, I think it's too early to kind of throw in the towel, you know. End of first quarter, I have a feeling this guy has been given the final warning at the end of the first quarter is his deadline. Well, I mean, it's definitely going to be something. And what's positive is, like, when you think about Jupiter being the dispositor of that retrograde, it means that it's going to put you in a position of like having emotional relief, because Jupiter's going to go direct in March. So a lot of Libra risings are going to feel like, oh, they can finally breathe, you know, kind of sigh this breath of relief, because something really dramatic has kind of transformed for the better, and it came with some kind of conclusion or wrapping something up. So don't go to worst case scenario, and definitely don't throw in the towel yet. Keep doing what you're doing. Good luck, Patty. All right, we have got Brandon, Allison. Looks like Rona got in there. You're welcome. What's up, Brandon? Brandon says, whatever card the universe wants me to see the most right now. That is my favorite thing to ask the cards. All right, so Tarot, what do you want Brandon to know right now? What does he need to be aware of? So the card that you get is the Seven of Cups, which is kind of like a ha-ha if you're getting a only card, because it's like, I'm not seeing things so clearly. Like, where am I supposed to be putting my energy and my attention? Like, where am I directing this? It could also mean that you're like a state of just feeling open, and you're open to new possibilities. You're considering, you know, different things that you can be changing. It can mean emotionally there can be a lot of like confusion, and you're questioning what's next. And cups always deal with emotion. They deal with relationships. They deal with also your intuition. So it can be kind of saying, if you're feeling blocked, or you're feeling kind of confused, or you're not really reading the signs, you're like, send me a sign. Well, the card that came up with it was the Hanged Man. So really, this is really interesting. I don't know if you've got transits or stuff going on in your 12th house. You should take a look at your chart, or if there's about to be planets that are going to be ingressing into your 12th house, but that's what it seems like. So I wonder if you're like a Taurus rising or Aries rising, or if you've got, you know, eclipses in your 12th house. But the Hangman is saying that, you know, rather than feeling like you need to make a decision or you need to pick a lane right now, it's more about contemplation. And sometimes when this, oh, there you go, my 12th house is Pisces. Okay, so Saturn and Neptune are there. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, if you're an Aries rising and if you've got those transits there, it's basically saying like, now is not the time. It also means that you're moving with what's going on in the collective. And I don't know if you're feeling it, but like collectively there's confusion, or there is a sense of feeling like you need more rest, or that you're not really entirely sure what direction things are going to be going in for the world, or Saturn being, you know, connecting to your career, that you're almost kind of just bobbing right now. You will be able to feel like you can make some pretty dramatic change. That is going to be coming probably closer to the end of February going into March. I would say be mindful of isolation, be mindful of any addictions, any mental health stuff. You know, when the Seven of Cups comes up, there's this sense of people not seeing things so clearly, or losing themselves, or wanting to disengage, or they're wanting to kind of get lost. And you can do that as long as you're creating, you know, some kind of structure with it. So Saturn and Neptune in the 12th is great for meditation or breath work, right? This is also good for a spiritual routine, or going to some kind of religious kind of, you know, place of practice. Or maybe it just means that you're really honing in on stuff that you need to be kind of clearing subconsciously, really, so you can get a real fair jump start, I think, on the new year. And I think a lot of Aries risings are going to feel this pretty dramatic shift from about mid-February until about April, as all these planets kind of slide into, you know, your ascendant sign, and then it's going to be like you're hitting the ground running. Enjoy the rest while you have it, because as soon as you guys are getting to February on, it's going to feel like you're just a mile a minute. And I think with that Seven of Cups, it's really about kind of clearing away any of the fears, especially about your career, your status, or maybe getting a little bit more focused on really tuning in to what you're like feeling like you're called to do right now. And you're only going to get that if the channel is clear. You're only going to get that if you're sleeping well. You're only going to get that if you have time alone. So rather than having confusion, if you quiet down everything that's around you, you're going to be able to kind of get those clear messages, and then you're going to feel like you can take some action as you're getting into the spring. Hopefully that's helpful for you. 2 double dose of working in your subconscious, and of course you're having those transits in your 12th house. Wonder what your dreams have been like lately. All right, let's take a look. Let's see who else we've got coming in. All right, you're welcome. We've got Allison, and then we've got Rona. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. Thanks for your read on this. I guess my last question around this is, does he come back to continue and explore the connection, or is someone else coming my way? And I'm going to assume you said, and he's just not the one. Let's take a look. So we're taking a look to see, is somebody going to kind of come back in and reconnect with Allison and explore a potential connection or relationship? Or should she be keeping her eyes open for a new connection? 1, 2, 3. Three of Cups, Death card, 2 of Wands. I mean, there's definitely this energy that I get that there is going to potentially be a third party that's going to enter your life. Because the reading is starting with the 3 of Cups, which is saying it was already this, oh my gosh, there was this connection to this person, it's amazing. And then the 3 of Cups comes in and it's like a third party that's kind of intervening, right? That can change everything. And I don't think it's him, I think it's going to be you. The other thing is that I still see you seeing him, like I still see you seeing him again. So I don't think this is like a situation where you're not going to see him. I think that the door is not only being left open, but it's also kind of suggesting that you'll have about, 3 months of opportunity to kind of get together, interact, and potentially see if it could lead to something else, which would require some pretty significant change on one or both parties' kind of ends in order to facilitate making a relationship work. And I would have to agree. I think that that's pretty expected. The 3 of Cups makes me feel like, somebody else can kind of come in that dramatically changes the way that you see things. Now, this could be somebody other than him that can have Scorpio placements. So it can be a really heavy 8th house chart. It could be somebody who's got a Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising, moon Pluto. I know who you're dealing with is a Scorpio rising, but I think that this is really saying that right when you think that you were like, okay, we're making headway, we're kind of hanging out, we're spending time together, something could happen and it could really develop into a relationship. Somebody's going to come in that's going to throw you for a bit of a loop or like a curveball in a positive way. That's going to make you really reevaluate and reconsider, do I want this relationship or this dynamic the way that it is, or am I reluctant to change? Now, it can also mean that, you're on the verge of considering seeing other people. The Scorpio rising comes back. There's a pretty dramatic shift. Obviously, kind of knowing his astrology, he's a Scorpio rising. Saturn's going to go into his 6th house. Like work the way he's been working is not sustainable. Then you'll see Neptune go into the 6th house, and that's going to represent not feeling like he's having enough time for creativity or, romance or fulfillment, and like he's very limited on time. And those transits are going to start to show him that he needs to make some pretty dramatic changes, either emotionally on the home front or within his home schedule, because Saturn rules his home, 6th house is his schedule, to facilitate being able to build his home life and also feel like he has companionship. So you may have been the person that comes along that's like that catalyst for change, right? Scorpio card, the Death card. I do think that you're going to probably see some pretty dramatic stuff that's going to happen around, I would say, the eclipses, and also, even going as far as into like the, full moon in Scorpio that you'll see in the spring. Timing wise, I think that probably over like the next 2 to 3 weeks, you may see him, because the 2 of Wands is a pretty fast moving card. It does indicate kind of keeping open and being like, hey, let's see where this can go. Maybe it could be something, thinking that in the future it could develop into that. But I think that there is a side of the 2 of Wands that is also very idealistic. That's like anything is possible, and you can go into it with that. But if you're not feeling solid in this connection, by the time that you're getting to about a month from now, if he's not, if you're not seeing him, if you're not connecting, if you're not feeling like he's able to give you something that you can hold on to, you will keep your options open. And I do think that there will be another person that's going to come in and entertain you. Thinking back to like some of the stuff I remember seeing with the composite chart and some of the eclipses that are going to happen in February, it's smack dab on top of all your planets in the 6th house, which literally means you have to make time to see each other in order to let love grow. So it's a good transit to have when you're having eclipses in the North Node over your Venus and your Sun and your Mercury. It's learning to communicate, hey, this is when I'm available, this is when I'm not, this is the sacrifice that I'm kind of making on my schedule, this is, the time that I want to see you. And I think if you can make that change and communicate and be more open-minded, that you can work with him through this process as long as there's like a road at the end of the tunnel, a light at the end of the tunnel that is going to lead to a potential relationship, then you would consider kind of holding on. But if somebody else comes along, like I think they might, that's going to make you reconsider whether or not you really want to stay in this connection with somebody who's resistant to change. I think you will feel it out, and I think you will give it a chance, and I think you'll realize that you don't have to stay putting everything on hold for one person. Because the end of this, the Ace of Coins really talks about having something of value. It's like, I can call that person mine, or I'm building a relationship with them. And my God, your transits that you're having through your 7th house as a Cancer rising is like incredible. The next 3 months, the next 3 weeks in particular, I would be saying, if it's not him, it's going to be somebody else. You don't really start to make some bigger decisions about what's going to happen in relationship land until about, and mid-February, kind of going into March. So you have time. But if somebody else strikes your fancy, they might kind of show you that maybe you deserve more. Hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, you're going to see him again for sure. You're definitely going to see him with some of those cards. He's just going to watch my Instagram stories until I die. What's up, Kimberly? I did your reading. You might have to scroll back a little bit, but I did do your reading. All right, let me check this and let me see who else we have, because I think we have another person or not. Oy vey, thank you. Hopefully he steps up. If not, you're the best. My fancy is open. All right, well, let's see. Who else do we have here? We've got Rona. Thanks, Rona, for your patience. Let me know what happens, Allison. Especially over the next 3 weeks. That's when you're going to see like the most action. I think Cancer risings are going to love these transits. All right, Nana. Sorry, it doesn't give me the preview. I just started a new job, and I think my boss... has something for me, a crush. Is this in my head or am I right? All right, let's take a look. So let's see what we can tell Nana. Does her boss have a crush on her, or is she crazy? Let's take a look. This one. I like the Knight of Pentacles. That's the card that you pulled. The Knight of Pentacles talks about somebody kind of coming on to you like slow and steady. Like it's not like Knight of Wands or like King of Swords, who's somebody who's going to be a little bit more abrupt and kind of like direct. This is somebody who is grounded. They're practical, they're considerate, they're kind. I mean, knights are on horses, so they come either bearing a message, or in this case, it could be some kind of offering or some kind of gift. But I do think that there is an interest here, because people don't give enough credit to the suit of Pentacles. That people always just say, oh, it's career and money, but they can be very sensual, right? Like earth signs. When I think of Taurus, and when I think of Capricorn, when I think of Virgo, these are all feminine signs. Even though you don't necessarily associate Virgo or Capricorn with being feminine, they are. So there is some receptivity to them. And I think that the Knight of Pentacles is definitely somebody who is going to pursue you in a slow, more practical way. They're not making it obvious. They're not making it creepy. They're not making it weird. It's just, hey, I was thinking of you. I got this for you. Or, oh, can I let me help you with that? Or people who are genuinely checking in with your, physical or your kind of work well-being. So you might kind of feel like he's kind of around all the time, or he's maybe a little bit more chatty, or he's, offering support, or he's trying to kind of guide you. And it doesn't feel like somebody who's bossing you around or like hovering around you. It's like somebody who's kind of curious to what you're doing and like trying to act helpful in the process. So I do think that there is an interest there. And I do think that he's trying to do it in a way that's coming across like he's not stepping over any boundaries or making anything weird. The card that I got as a confirmation card is the 5 of Pentacles, which means like he's kind of probably feeling a little like, ooh, should I not be doing this? Is she not into this? Because it does not really seem like it's being reciprocal, or that you're not like, being kind of like, affectionate, lovey-dovey with him. And he's kind of questioning whether or not he should be continuing to kind of act the way that he's been acting, because there may be some fear of rejection. Or there is some aspect where he's looking at it going like, ooh, you know, I don't want to make things like weird or kind of like uncomfortable in the workspace, or I don't want to be feeling like, you know, she's going to want to avoid me. So he is kind of in his head about it. So at least he can play it off in a way where he's just trying to kind of be friendly and helpful. But I do think that there is a bit of a crush there, and it does look like it's not necessarily something he's going to act on immediately. It can take some time, and he's certainly not going to kind of muster up, I think, the guts or like the courage to maybe approach you a little bit more directly until he feels like there are some signals from you if you are potentially interested in him. So hopefully that is helpful. Definitely a lot of love in the workplace stuff going on. You guys are going to see that a lot with Mars and Venus kind of moving through Capricorn over like the next couple of weeks. So let me know what happens. And like, I'm kind of curious what he's doing to send signals, because I think in his mind, he's trying to kind of keep it cool, but you never know. Anyway, to those of you guys who joined me for the reading tonight, thank you guys for joining me on a Friday live. Obviously, I'll be here next week. We're going to be talking about the full moon in Cancer that's going to be happening. So if you guys want to get an astrology reading next week, definitely check that out. Astro Weather, I just filmed. So if you're a level 4 membership, you guys can go and watch it for Sunday. We talk all about Mercury going through the sign of Capricorn, what that means, and how to kind of prepare and get down to business this week. And obviously, guys, Happy New Year to you. I hope it is a beautiful holiday and New Year's with your friends and your family. I'm wishing you guys all kinds of good things in 2026. Please do subscribe to the channel. Click the thumbs up if you like this video, and join me for live videos on Fridays, or you can catch me here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. We've got horoscopes, new and full moon reports, retrograde videos, and so much more. If you guys want to book a reading with me in 2026, if you want me to help you kind of navigate through your head, I'd love to work with you. Click the links below and head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter, and also check out my courses. I'm going to be starting a new Astro 301 advanced course at the end of January, where I'm going to be teaching all my kind of prediction methods and how to help you guys learn how to kind of up your game up a little bit when it comes to your forecasting and predictions. If you want to take your astrology game to the next level, definitely check that out. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday night, and I will see you here all very, very soon. Take care.